Welcome into Lion Pride Sports here for another edition of our Coaches Show. I'm Andrew Rogers alongside the field hockey coach, Sarah Baumann, here with us today. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Coach, we have a fun interview wrapped in store for you in the 2017 season. This is what I want to go back to. You guys were 17-2, an NCAA record for wins. You also were the leading all NCAA Division II with a winning percentage of .895. Just talk about how you are able to carry that over into this season. Yeah,
I think that coming off the heels of such a awesome season was great for our younger players to see that we have such young talent on the team. So bringing that forward, I think a lot of them were kind of nervous about graduating seniors last year, but seeing our team develop in the spring, seeing our team come into preseason prepared, and just knowing that we can find success from last year and bring that into this season. I think some of them have a little bit of, they're a little hungry to try and make that NCAA tournament. Since last year we kind of got shut out. We were kind of right on that brink of being selected, and so I think that that's making us even more hungry coming into this season to really shoot for that goal.
And then you guys are consecutive ECAC tournament champions. What an achievement for you guys to win 2 in a row.
Yeah, it was very, very awesome. I think it's always hard. Last year, kind of our motto was heavy lies the crown. So I think it's one of those things where to achieve that goal is awesome, but to repeat is hard because everyone's kind of gunning for you. And so to be able to kind of be calm, cool, and collected, but still stay focused on our style of field hockey and our goals for that team was really awesome to see our girls be able to push through, knowing that we had 4 or 5 teams under us really trying to break us of that title again.
And then this year you guys fell to the 17th or the 10th best team in the nation, I should say. And then you guys bounced all the way back and beat the 7th best team in the nation. So when you start off and you didn't get the outcome that you wanted, how are you able to motivate your team and kind of put into their minds like, hey, put this one behind you, let's go get the next one?
Yeah, I think it's never fun to lose, and we never want a loss on our schedule, on our record for the year. But I think the big thing that we focused on for them after the game was we took that team to double overtime. We took them to shootouts. Starting the first overtime, we were down 2 players, so it was 7v5. We only had 4 field players on the team, and we were able to really dominate. So taking those positives away, knowing that we didn't lose because we didn't play well. We played really, really well in that game. We had so many positives to take from it. And so, yes, it's hard to lose, but you take all that we gained and how we grew in that game, taking it into that next game against St. Anselm. And I think that we really showed up and knew that, we were that better team that day.
And and something to mention, this team did not come out sluggish that game at all. They put up a fight, and the outcome just wasn't there. Going now toward the 2016 season, I want to backtrack just a little bit more. That was the best season in program history. When you look at it, the Lions had the highest scoring offense in NCAA Division II, scoring over 3 goals a game, and also ranked top 10 in scoring defense with only allowing about 1 goal against. So do you see any resemblance this year with the team?
I think we definitely see resemblance. I think it's hard to compare season to season because you keep those returners coming through your program, but we always try to focus on the future. And having young Lions on our team, we have a freshman of a class of 8 this year, and we have a lot of depth in those positions, a lot of depth within our classes. And so, yes, we kind of take from that, but I think we really try and focus on moving forward and focusing on this season. And, each year you lose players that contributed to those goals in the past. And so your team kind of starts to think, as we graduate these girls, can we still do better than we did before? And I think it's awesome to focus on that future and really allow them to see that those girls were an integral part of our past, but our current team is an integral part of our future and where we can take this program.
And I like how you mentioned the future. I want to get to the upperclassmen on your roster and how they can impact your team, not only with the leadership role, but also on the pitch itself. But I want to start off with this. You keep mentioning these freshmen, 8 freshmen on the roster. Who are you most excited about, or do all 8 of them really just play into your coaching plan?
I think all 8 of them play into our coaching plan. We really try to recruit really good people for our team and girls that will fit into our Lindenwood culture that we've built here over the last 8 years. And then we, just all around athletes. So we don't recruit positions. And I think each of the 8 girls that we have this year are able to contribute in different positions on the field. They're willing and able to go in when we need them, play different spots. They're fitting into that culture and following that leadership, which we've kind of built from our coaching staff down to our upperclassmen. And I think that that's really awesome to see. So I am expecting big things from them this year as well as the next 3 seasons.
And let's talk about more of the leaders now. You have players like Jesse Lindano and Norfond.
Yeah.
How have they been offensive threats for you this season so far?
Oh, I mean, it's been amazing to see them develop as players. I think they're both in their 3rd year here with us, and we tell them every time we meet with them, it's so phenomenal to see how you've grown as athletes. And I think that their biggest threats are that their work ethic is nonstop. I mean, they're willing to work on both sides of the ball. They see these plays develop and their passing patterns that they're able to work with each other and the other forward lines and midfield lines. But I think it's their work ethic and their constant will to want to get better as individual athletes and also help their team in every situation.
And then, of course, you need a goalie, Skylar Sarbeck, who's been stellar ever since she's put on the Lindenwood jersey up until this point in her collegiate career. What have you liked about her play this season, and more importantly, just in her career as a whole?
Yeah, I think Skylar came in and she had 1 season under one of our other top goalkeepers, Victoria Gill, who was an outstanding goalkeeper for us as well. So I think she was able to kind of grow under that and get a season of growth and development with a top goalkeeper above her. But the one thing we love about her is just her calm, cool collectedness. She is a great communicator. She's very aggressive and demands stuff of her team, but she also seems very calm and cool back there. And if you know her at all, she's very relaxed, but when it comes game time, she demands stuff of her team on the field, and she's always, she's that workhorse out there for us in the cage and in that circle with the communication.
And talking about being a workhorse, something that a lot of people just overlook because of how strong your coaching career has been is that first season that you were here with Lindenwood. There's 2-13.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you don't really get a turnaround like you've had all the time. That's something that doesn't come every day. But going 2-13, how have you managed to turn around not only just the recruiting process and the team itself, but just helping yourself grow as a coach as well?
Yeah, I think what it really comes down to is surrounding yourself with people that you know are on the same page as you culture-wise. And we have a wonderful coaching staff. Sarah Nagel's been with me for 8 seasons. And I brought her in, and I knew that we had the skill set to bring the team to the next level, but also we were on the same page with that culture. And to me, that's the biggest thing of knowing what we expect of our athletes. Yes, we want to win on the field, but if you don't have that culture off the field of that respect factor, doing good things in the classroom, being good servant leaders and stuff in the community, then it's hard to expect the wins on the field. So I think that we've done a really good job of focusing on our culture, bringing in the right types of families and young women into our program that fit, not just skill-wise, but also personality and work ethic and respect-wise.
And then more talking toward the schedule now. Coming up, you have games on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday against Mercy College, Sunday against Newberry College. Yeah. What is the preparation looking like going into those matchups?
Yeah, so we always focus one game at a time. So right now we're really focusing on Mercy. We definitely do some scouting with them. We're going to watch game film today. We asked the girls to watch some of their game film last night. But the big thing that we focus on is playing our game. So we try to not adapt too much to their style of play. We know what we want to do in terms of our structure on the field, how we want to work our passing patterns, our work ethic in terms of setting up our press first and kind of what we expect on the field. And then we kind of adapt from there depending on how they're going to play the game. So I think that we're really focused on just playing our style of hockey, coming out really hard. We want to definitely set the tone, especially with our first home game. It's our first game on this turf. And so just really making sure that we focus on ourselves and not necessarily the officials or what the other team is doing.
Do you think playing on the new turf is going to affect the team anyway?
I hope not. It's always hard. The turf this year is not something that's easy for us to play on. It is a little bit thicker. It's not the ideal surface for us as field hockey athletes. But, we always tell them the other team's working with the same disadvantage then. And hopefully for us being able to practice on it a few times now and for the last few weeks, that's kind of an advantage to us. And we just have to adapt slightly. You got to get a little bit lower. You have to be stronger with your passes. You have to know that what we've done in the past with simple, small passes might not work as much. You really got to focus on our hits and working that ball out strong. So I think that we've kind of ingrained that with them throughout practice, and hopefully we can bring that into the games. Yes.
And then talking about just being or having to adjust on any given day. You know, you talk about the new turf. I was talking to Nor Fons a little bit but before this actual show.
Yeah.
And she told me something very interesting about field hockey that I didn't know before.
Yeah.
She said that every stick is the same size.
Yes.
So every player plays with the same stick, whether you're 6 feet tall or whether you're 5 feet tall.
Yeah,
you play with the same size stick. Is that does that disadvantage go unnoticed at all, or do you feel like a lot of these players now, they've been playing for so long, they've adjusted to that?
I think most of the players have adjusted. There is slight differences in terms of like an inch or two in there, kind of like a 35-inch stick to a 37-inch stick. But overall, most of our girls play with that 36, and I think that if you're skilled, you're skilled. I think that we have girls like Nor, who has an excellent reach. She's already tall, so she uses that to her advantage. But we have players that, one of their best advantages is their quick hands, and so they don't need that long reach. They're able to do the quick elimination skills, and they're able to get a quick shot off. So I think it just depends on how you're able to use your skill as an athlete, and we put you in the spot that's going to be successful, that you're going to be most successful in to help our team.
And then a little bit more on you, Coach. You've grown up here in the state of Missouri.
Yeah.
Grown up in Wildwood, went to Lafayette, then went to Missouri State to play field hockey, and now you're here at Lindenwood. So you've bounced around to different areas and different schools, of course, but you've still been that Missouri homegrown coach. What's that like been for you?
I mean, it's been really awesome. I moved away for a year. My first coaching job was in Ohio, and I moved out of the state, and it was wonderful. But when this job opened up 8 years ago, and it was kind of like, I get to come back to St. Louis. I get to come back to Missouri. My family's here. And it's really been awesome to be able to grow the sport here at Lindenwood, but also in Missouri. I think that it's just kind of finally starting to become this main sport in high schools. The two clubs here in town are really starting to grow. And so to be able part of that college growth here in the Midwest is really awesome to see, and I just hope that it really continues. And
then finally, Coach, to wrap this thing full circle, what did you establish at the beginning of the season to keep the girls on track to their plan of success?
I think the biggest thing that we established is that we focus game to game. So we have this big picture. We don't have a conference this year any longer, but yes, our big picture is to hopefully get a bid for the NCAA, but you can't get there if you don't focus game to game. So that Bloomsburg game was important. That St. Anselm game was important. We were in New York last weekend and played two teams that weren't in the top 10, but each of those games is equally as important because we have to get the wins. You have to make sure that we're growing as a team and not digressing and getting out of our style of play while we play those teams. So focusing game to game, making sure that each practice counts and every moment on the field, just to make sure that we're growing as athletes and as a team.
Well, Coach, thank you so much for sitting down, joining me today, and good luck to you and the girls on the rest of the season.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Coming up next, we'll be joined by the Lindenwood women's ice hockey coach, Scott Spencer. He's next on Lion Pride Sports.
So we were walking to school.
I started thinking about lunch. Mom packed me turkey and cheese.
She's smart.
I really want cheese pizza.
Sometimes her mind wanders.
We should have a sleepover.
I remember saying, Laura?
I think I heard Mom say something.
The sign says don't walk.
Sometimes it's so overwhelming.
I really hope she doesn't have another bad day.
I really hope I don't have another bad day at school today.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning, 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash, 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish! In your face, in your face, in
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to Lion Pride Sports here with the Lindenwood women's ice hockey coach, Scott Spencer. I'm Andrew Rogers. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
And Coach, you're entering your 5th season here with Lindenwood as the head coach of the ice hockey team for the women's side. What have you preached this offseason to prepare for the second best team in the nation in the Wisconsin Badgers, September 28th and 29th?
Be ready for a good hockey team, obviously. Through the first little bit here with our group, again, we're not talking a whole lot about who we're playing that first week. It's been just through the summer with get in shape, come back prepared to go to work, and you know, through the first part of our season, we always just kind of focus on our habits. For the veterans, it's reminding them what we do, a lot of teaching right now, you know, so that's the main focus, what we've been focusing on here for the first couple of weeks here of practice. And next week we'll start to get a little more prep for Wisconsin from there. And again, they get their Olympians back from being a centralization year last year, so they get a couple senior Olympians back, and they got a good freshman class coming in. I saw they were just preseason #1 in the WCHA, so I don't know, they might be ranked #1 or 2 coming here with the preseason poll coming out, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and you talk about interesting, and it's a great term that you use to describe your schedule is just it's attacking a different animal than a lot of these other teams and a lot of these other schools that have to go about it. But when it all comes down to it, the nitty-gritty, it comes down to the players on the ice. Who are you excited most about this season?
You know, again, like I kind of mentioned before, this is going to be the first year we've had some older players versus being younger. So a lot of our players were thrown in situations early in their career where, you know, more established programs, freshmen, sophomores don't get a whole lot of ice time potentially, but here they've been able to see everything early and get a lot of game experience. So, you know, players like Taylor Gerard, Sarah Paisley, they're both juniors this year. Sierra Burt is also on that line. I'd say that line was one of probably the top 3 lines in our conference last year, along with a line at Robert Morris and Mercyhurst had once their Finnish national team kids figured it out. They were a pretty solid team line as well. There's a couple players there. On the back end, you got Allie Larson, who's going to be a senior captain this year, Shannon Morris-Reed. We've got a couple transfers coming in from Harvard and Mercyhurst University that are, one's a senior and one's a graduate student and one's a junior. From there, goaltending position, Jolene DeBruin's been solid for the last 2 seasons for us, being first team all-conference last year along with Gerard on that. So our goaltending's there, where I think our defense is more experienced, and then just the experience up front. I expect a better season out of our group this year again.
And then I like how you mentioned your forward line, the top 3, like you just had best line.
Yeah.
That was a freshman and 2 sophomores last year. And again, one of them being Taylor Gerard, the leading scorer and the points leader for the team as well. Do you see this line doing the exact same thing as last year?
Well, hopefully it's better. Like even last year, like Taylor, she broke her wrist right after Christmas and missed 6 games and then played 6 with it still broken, a cast, and that was the end of her season. So she played the whole second half with a broken wrist pretty much. So that was a big loss down the stretch. Before she was hurt, I think she was 12 or 13 in the country in points per game, and then in the top 10 for goals per game before she was injured. So she had an off-season surgery where she seems like she's come back from that all right. So she's had a few injuries. So I'm hoping that she's healthy, and the other 2 just being older with the two Sierras, Bert and Ernie there. Again, they're both very intelligent hockey players, so they pick things up quick. They have talent, you know, and they just the chemistry between the 3, they just work really well together, where they just know where each other are on the ice. And again, I'm going to keep them together to start the year. They had success last year, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of mentality with those 3.
And I like how you talked about also the leadership on this team, the seniors, Jolene DeBrun, Shannon Morris-Reed, Allie Larson, and Carla Goodwin also to add into that mix. What do you see them acting like going into the season? Is it a little emotional for them for their final season, or do you see it just being like, this is our last one, let's go out and get it?
Yeah. Not one of the four is really overly emotional to begin with. But you know what, I think they're all competitors. They all want their senior season, to be a successful one. They're all bought into the program, and you know, 4 years ago that was my first recruiting class here. So I'm finally through. I've got 4 years of recruiting classes here, and talking with them back when trying to get them to come here, they were a group that knew that they were trying to establish something here that would sustain itself over time. You know, they knew there was going to be some growing pains with it, and they accepted that challenge. So they're a very prideful group. They're a group that again, once they've gone through a lot the first 3 years, again, with trying to build and grow this thing, and I know we're going to get everything out of them, you know, off the ice, on the ice. They're a focus group, so I'm excited to see how their senior year goes. And
then I like how you mentioned this group, this senior group being your first recruiting class. I want to go now to your most recent recruiting class. Yeah. 7 freshmen on the roster. You can even tack in the 2 transfers that are also on the team. But how do you go about your recruiting process, ranging from the Midwest and the Canadian regions?
Well, with myself being Canadian and where I moved from, we had a very Western Canadian feel early. Like I coached Allie and Carla out in British Columbia before I came here, so I met those 2 when they were 14, 15 years old, and coached them for a couple of years back in Canada. Shannon was from BC as well, and we played against her, and Jolene, we played against her. So again, that's where the recruiting started, because that's what I knew. That's where I had all my contacts. And then being in the Division I hockey for the 12 years prior to going out to British Columbia, just the contacts with coaches in Ontario and all through Canada, all through the U.S. and the world, to be honest with you. We'll take players from anywhere. And then where we're located here, I think we need to be good in the southern regions. We have some players. That again, Lily Marchant, who's from California. We're the closest opportunity for anybody that's south of us. We want to be good in the Midwest, the St. Louis, the Chicago, Detroit area. Again, Gerard's and Martinez this year, they're both from the same organization in Detroit. Wagner and Alt and Gagliardo, who transferred from Mercyhurst, they all played for the Chicago Mission and out of Illinois there. And you know, you try to cast a broad web, you know, but trying to be good in the Midwest, Western Canada, where I kind of had my roots from, and then you dabble in with your contacts. I know one of our players' dad is a coach up north, so there's another valuable asset that we have that we can utilize to help bring high-end quality players. You know, Taylor Kerwin was on Team Canada last year, who's a freshman this year. She played in the World Championships for Canada for the under-18 team. You know, so it's since we've been here, we've been able to get quality kids on campus for visits, and then it just takes to land a couple of those kids, and that's how you can kind of turn a program around and make it sustain itself.
And talking about top-tier talent, not only just with the recruits that you've made, but some of the roles that you've played, and you played a very significant role in the development of goaltender Nicole Hensley. And you mentioned Team Canada, of course, Nicole Hensley winning the gold this year for the U.S., and you being from Canada, so I don't know who you were actually rooting for in that game, if you were rooting for Nicole, if you were rooting
U.S.
There it goes. So we'll set the record straight. Coach was rooting for the U.S. But anyway, talk about just being able to help her grow in her craft in goaltending.
Yeah. So I had Nicole for 2 years, and I honestly can't take a whole lot of credit for her development. You know, she was here before I got here. The only thing I can maybe take credit for is the amount of shots she took, you know, to help her development. So, but you know, Corey Whitaker did a great job with her. Her goaltender coach Luke as well. She works with a bunch of different people here that have helped her along the way. And again, it just goes to I always say, when I was at Ohio State, we had Olympians there. Robert Morris, we had Olympians there. Olympians are wired a different way. You know, they want to strive for excellence in every area of their life. Nicole was a 4.0 student. She set the all-time record, actually beat the goaltender who I coached before record, who was the #1, Brianne McLaughlin, who was at Robert Morris. You know, she's just wired a different way, and it's more her. You know, we give her the tools and everything to have success, but it's her work ethic that she puts in and day out that her success has come from. Because again, she wasn't a kid who came here and was in that upper echelon of recognition in the U.S. program and so on, and she worked her way into it and earned every inch that she got with it. So, you know, it's more Nicole, and then there's just what she's done for our program, you know, for visibility and so on the international stage for us. You know, she comes back, she lives here in the summer and trains here in the summertime. You know, like, she's rooted here, and she's constantly talking to current players, you know, and just being around. She's an extremely valuable asset that we have.
And then going back to this season, you know, we talked about how tough a schedule that you guys play. 10, 20, and 1 last season. Overall, that was the most wins in program history, 8 and 12 in conference. What are the expectations for this season?
Again, I think the expectations are again, we only lost 2 players last year, so we have a lot of returners. So again, just noticing in the early parts of the year right now, our kids they're picking things up quicker. You know, so our starting point is at a better spot. You know, I don't like to sit there and name a whole bunch of wins, but I expect us to compete. What we've done over the first 4 years, I can probably say, is we've closed the gap on the competition. You know, when I took over the program, they're giving up 65 shots to Wisconsin. Last year we gave up 30, lost 3-1 and 4-0. You know, so that's where we're in every hockey game, a bounce here or two, or a special team goal. You know, you're in every match. We've beat top 10 teams every year over the last 4 years as well. So, you know, I expect us to continue to do that, keep knocking off some of those teams, surprise a few, and then just be more consistent. And that's the biggest thing that I hope with us being older, that our consistency is better. You know, with a young team, you can be really good, and then you sit there and you do the roller coaster. So, you know, as they get older, hopefully that consistency is more stable, and we can play at that high level more, and then I think the wins will result from that.
Well, great, Coach. Thank you so much, and good luck to you and your team against Wisconsin in your first games. That'll do it here for Lion Pride Sports. Again, for the Lindenwood women's ice hockey coach, Scott Spencer, I'm Andrew Rogers, signing off for this edition of Lion Pride Sports.